Good morning and welcome to your Monday morning devotional. I'm so glad you're with me this morning. I'm in my little man cave in the back of the garden because it is cold outside, being the end of August. This month we've been looking at walking in forgiveness. We started out with what walking in forgiveness is, why we should forgive, how we should forgive. This morning I want to look at when we should forgive. We know Jesus talked a lot about forgiveness, the importance of forgiveness, because he forgave us of everything. So I want to look at when is it that you should forgive. Well, there are a couple of items that he talks about. Number one, in Mark 11, verse 25, he says, if you're standing in prayer and you have unforgiveness in your heart towards another brother or sister, neighbor, person, and you do not forgive them of their trespasses, how much more will your Father not forgive you of your trespasses against him? So standing in prayer, you know you've got something wrong. That's when you need to walk in forgiveness. Does that mean you just say, I forgive them, and then move on? Well, in Matthew 5, Jesus highlights that if you have anger in your heart against someone, which usually that does stem from unforgiveness, you are to do something about it. But it's not just if you have anger in your heart, if you've caused someone to have anger. In other words, if you know that you've done wrong to somebody, Jesus says you must go and put it right. It's important to understand that when we know we are to do something about unforgiveness, either that we hold against someone or we know we have caused someone to hold it against us, we are to go and put it right. Again, he says, if you do not do this, how can your Father in heaven forgive you? How can your worship be received? How can your prayers be heard? It's important to understand that from our heart, we must walk in that level of forgiveness. I was just sharing with Ben the other day the importance of what Jesus says about do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's a very important rule. It's called the golden rule. I learned that as a child. It isn't do unto others as they have done unto you. In other words, it's not about taking revenge. It's not about holding grudges. It literally is about doing to them as you would want done to you. I don't know about you, but I would want to be forgiven if I've done something wrong. And I would want to go put that right if I'm aware that I've done something wrong. So it's important that if that's what your desire is, because that's what the Bible speaks of, then do everything you can to do that. The greatest example of when we should do it is Jesus dying on that cross, having everything done against him, an innocent man. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. In the midst of tragedy, in the midst of wrongdoing, in the midst of trespasses, in the midst of sins against him, he forgave. That's ultimately when you do it. When you know you need to let something go, forgive. When you know that you've caused harm or you're still holding an anger against someone, go and put it right. Be reconciled one to another. Even in the midst of persecution, in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of unjust causes coming against you, be like Jesus and say, Father, I forgive them for what they do, because I know you have through Jesus Christ. Let me pray. Lord, I thank you for this time of walking in forgiveness and learning what that is all about. Lord, if there is any wicked way in us, if there's any anger in our heart, cause us to act upon that understanding, that knowing. Father, I pray that forgiveness flows for us here at Kingdom Life and anyone else who's listening, wherever you're from, that we will truly walk in forgiveness when we know we must do it. Jesus, you're the greatest example. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, God bless you, and let's walk in forgiveness. God bless.